My wife and I have been traveling a lot lately. This year, just for whatever reason, we've been on a lot of planes. We're empty nesters. Our youngest daughter just went to college. Our son lives in Florida with his new wife, and we are always on a plane, just trying to be with them and those kinds of things. And so some of you, when you fly, you never check a bag. Like, it's a point of pride. You're like, I will never, ever check a bag. You're like the business road warrior ninja. You're the fastest through. You've got every clearance. And I like that. I would like to be that person, but I fly with my wife. And come on. She's not here in this service, so don't tell her. She's coming to the next service. But when I say, hey, why don't we just not check bags? We'll just carry on. She just laughs, and that's so cute, because we've got to take everything possible that we might need and that we never use, right, by the way. So lots of outfits, shoe choices, makeup, hair, all that stuff. And so what do? Normally I'll pack a bag, she'll pack a bag, we'll go. And we get there, and how many of you have had this experience? You pack this thing as much as possible. How many of you have gotten really, really good at weighing it yourself personally? You're like, 49.7, good, we're good. And then sometimes you get there, what happens? You go to the gate agent, you put it up on that little scale, you try to hold it, you put it real gently. Yeah. And then you hold it up and they're, oh, I'm so sorry, it's over. It's over, that'll be $1,000, right? Like, what? So then you have this moment where you got your bag out in front of all these strangers and you've got it opened up and you're just pulling stuff out. You're like, well, how much does a shoe weigh? Is that enough? Is that enough stuff? You take it out and it's just stand on top of it and you just shove it down in there and you zip it. And look what happened to it just burst open. Do you see that? This is a metal suitcase. And then you're holding, what? I'm gonna shove it. And then you look behind you, there's these big guys like Shaq and The Rock or in my sock is gonna put the plane down, but these big guys, they're not a problem. It's still going on the plane. I'm gonna shove it in my backpack. It's all going together. Yeah. So this bird, we'll probably get rid of this guy or put some duct tape on it, but as I was preparing for this message, this was a beautiful picture of what I feel like my life is like so many times, is that I'm trying to shove in everything I possibly can right up to the limit or just a little bit over, because I think that's where real life is found. But then we get to this place where I'm just over the limit. I'm lugging around something that's so heavy. I want to bring us a message today called No, Thank You. No, thank you. I think the COVID shutdowns revealed something when we all had to grind to a halt in the last year, and that's that we are addicted to busy. I'm just gonna bring a message today that I need to hear. I'm just gonna preach it to myself, and if any of it lands with you, you take it home. I just realized that when COVID hit and I hit the wall, that sometimes we don't know what to do with ourselves when we have nothing to do. We don't know what to do with that space of not busy. And so when the restrictions started to lift, if you're like me, I just rushed back to that same hectic, unsustainable pace, because that's what I know. And that's what you know. Most of us live with this low-grade fatigue, a depression or stress. When you ask people now, hey, how are you doing? What do they respond with? They used to say, I'm fine, or we're okay, or we're doing good. Now we just say we're busy or tired, Oh, just running. That's what I say now. That's my new one. Oh, I'm just running, just running. And so we walk around with this feeling of like kind of chronic burnout that rarely goes away. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Anybody experiencing any of this? Tired and busy are the new normal. We have this chronic overload in our lives, right? Sociologists call it pathological busyness, meaning that we just can't stop. We just can't get away from it. Living at this unsustainable pace. And I don't mean that, hey, I have a lot to do. That's actually a good thing. I mean, I have too much to do. And I've gone over the 50 pounds on the scale, and I've packed so much in that the suitcase of my life is bursting, and I just can't keep up. Anybody got an amen in the house? Like that it's just what it feels like. That's what we're all carrying around with us. These activities, work, kids, friends, just juggling it all. We've all got it on a Google Calendar or spreadsheet with multicolors. Lots of moms here in this room, you feel responsible for juggling all that with your families. You know, dad, you're doing this or that, and you're part of the carpool and you're an Uber driver, but moms just kind of a lot of times just feel the load of, all right, we gotta make sure you get here and get there. I just recently, this past week, learned about like entertainment overload. And it was the anxiety that develops when you realize how behind you are on certain shows. Have you ever heard this? Like somebody brings up a new show they watched on Netflix or HBO Max or whatever, and you're like, oh my gosh, I never even heard of that show. I'm missing out. I should be watching that show. I'm just getting done with Friends. That's in the 90s. We have choice overload. A lot of us, our lives feel like the Cheesecake Factory menu. You know what I'm talking about? Like I don't even know what I don't know what to choose. Or commitment overload, expectation overload, information overload, just streams of alerts on our phones. Like you need to have a degree in quantitative physics to know how to turn all of them off so they don't bother you anymore. We're never really off work anymore. Like it used to be a moment you could go home and I am no longer at work. We don't have that anymore. Somebody's always in touch with us. There's always an email. There's always a text. There's always, hey, did you do this? Hey, how about this? Well, I'm on Aruba on my honeymoon. I know, but could you just handle that really quickly? No. We just never get to turn it off. I'm guilty of this. I had 2 kids. And it felt like almost always there's overlapping sports seasons, 2, 3 sports per kid per season. You know, hey, we got tennis over here, and then don't forget on Thursday night we've got your ballet thing, and then we got to go over and we got football, and then we're gonna do lacrosse. It's all just kind of. A lot of us remember growing up in a season where you played one sport, crazy, per season. It's nuts. Hey, I'm playing baseball now, and then that will be over. And then there'll be a little break, and then you'll play the next. That's gone. Some of you are riding in the car right now to a tournament, watching online in a hotel or whatever because life it's right up to here all the time. I have kids living in different states. Some of you are in that category. Your kids have grown up and moved on and hey, you're just trying to juggle that and get to see them and keep up with all of their world. And in the middle of all that, we try to squeeze in a prayer, multitask. Hey, I'm running on the treadmill and I'm watching a sermon, or I just want to try to keep it all together and I'm going to add that into my life. We're addicted to busy, addicted to hurry, just hurry, hurry, hurry. It's a contagion in our society. And I like to go fast. I want to feel like I've got a lot going on. Some of us are built like that. We just have these shoulders that we're like, hey, I can carry. I enjoy that feeling until, come on, it's not a lot, it's too much. I like to go fast. Like when I pull up at a But I pull up at a stoplight, I count the number of cars. Does any of you do this? Like, okay, so I can get over to the other line. Oh, this is gonna be better. We multitask when we're in the car. We're like shaving and feeding the kids and putting on eyeshadow and doing a report and watching Netflix all at the same time. When I go to Costco or the supermarket, some of you have this disease as well. I'm constantly checking out which line I think will be the fastest. Do you do this? Like you go, oh, that's the number of people. Okay, that's 3. Oh, she's writing a check. I think she's writing a check. There's no way I'm getting in that line. Now, young people, a check is a piece of paper that you would write the amount that you would pay. Sometimes I will look at the person who's scanning the groceries. Do you ever do this? Oh, not him. That's his new day. This is his first day. He's in training. This kid's looking up the number for bananas, okay? Everybody knows the banana number is 4011. Everybody knows that. What are you even doing here, 15-year-old kid? Let's go. Hurry is this contagion that has spread throughout our society. Carl Jung, the psychologist, said, hurry is not from the devil, hurry is the devil. And it just affects us. I like to go fast and I enjoy that. But I read this last week when I was preparing, signs you may be moving too quickly through life. And it just started to bring up all of these things for me, maybe for you too. One, irritability. I just can't be bothered. I'm just irritated. Restlessness. Like even when I have downtime, I can't be still. Emotional or compulsive overworking. Like I just can't stop. So I'm always on. I just need to check this email, send this thing, let's follow up with Bill on that. This might be really dangerous for a lot of us. Emotional numbness. And what I mean by that is like, I don't have bandwidth to deal with this. So I numb out, and we do that by doping. And I don't mean just drugs and alcohol. That certainly can be something, but it could be porn or video games or just Netflix binging. We do this, my wife and I will find our favorite show, and then they just know how to get you, right? Like at the end of the show, you're like, well, just one more. It's only 3 a.m. We got to get up in 2 hours anyway. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. But what I realize is that so often I'm so busy that I'm doing that to escape. It's escapist behavior. I'm trying to escape dealing with some stuff, and I just can't sit and be with myself. Disconnected from our identity, our calling, our sleep, exercise, healthy habits, they all start to go by the wayside. And then this is a real indicator for me, and it might be for you too, is hoarding energy. I read about this earlier this week in studying for this, and it's the idea that we all only have a certain amount of energy to give to certain things, right? And so because I'm so depleted, because I'm so tired, I reserve that for only the most important things. So I just don't have emotional energy to give to this or that. So I compartmentalize. Sometimes my wife will say, hey, let's talk about blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I can't. I just don't. And then she doesn't understand. She's like, we're talking about it. And then we get in a big fight. And it just, okay. So, but it's just, I can't talk about that right now. I got to compartmentalize. I'll think about that tomorrow. So this isn't just a Christian thing, or it's like our society. In fact, Bill Gates, depends on what day of the week it is, I love this quote from him. It says, busy is the new stupid. And what he means by that is, hey, I get so busy that I can't think clearly, that I can't manage the things that matter. And busy sabotages our capacity to follow Jesus. I don't know about you, but it may be busyness, the number one obstacle or enemy to my spiritual growth. It's the things that stands in the way. So I want us to look at a scripture today, a little piece of the Bible in Luke chapter 10. We're gonna have the verses there on the screen, but they're also on the outline that you received, or if you have a Bible with you, you can turn there, a Bible app. Let's just read through these verses and then we'll talk about it together. If you're involved in church regularly, sat through sermons before, you probably heard this passage before, but I want you to look through it through the lens that we've been talking about. Verse 38 says, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you're worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. So let's talk about this a little bit. Let's go back to the verses together. Verse 38 says that Jesus and his disciples were on their way, which means they're moving, they're doing something, they're busy. And it says that they come to a village and Martha opens her home and says, why don't you come in? We're gonna have a meal together. So they come in. And then in verse 39, it says that she has a sister, and that sister Mary is sitting at the Lord's feet listening to what he had to say. Now this is important. Jesus is a massive public figure at this point. Thousands of people are following him, and Jesus and his disciples have come in, and as they're waiting on the meal and as it's being prepared, he starts to talk and teach. What an unbelievable opportunity. Jesus has come to your small group, and he's gonna sit down and he's gonna talk for a little bit. And so Mary sits at his feet and soaks it in. But then there's a problem, and we're all Marthas at some point in our life, but he says, but Martha was, come on, what a great word. This is for all of us, was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. And she came to him and said, Lord, don't you care? Now that is a prayer that I pray a lot. Maybe you do too. She's distracted, she's busy, she's overwhelmed. And then she comes to the Lord and says, don't you care? Like there's a little bit of passive aggressive stuff going on here, because she says, don't you care that my sister has left me in the kitchen doing all this stuff? Any of you have sibling rivalry like that, where like, Jesus, will you tell Mary I'm in here slaving away? She's distracted, overwhelmed, and God, don't you care? Don't you see what I'm carrying here? And why don't you, which is another prayer that we always pray. We never pray, God, would you show me what I need to know? We always pray prayers like, would you tell her to do this? Tell her to get up and help me. And then Jesus says in verse 41, he says, Martha, Martha, which is every time you see a name repeated like that in the Bible, it's a term of endearment. It means, Martha, dear Martha. He says, I love you, come on. And he says, you are worried and upset about many things. That could be like the mission statement of my life. You are worried and upset about many things. But then he says it, this is what we all need to hear today. But few things are needed. Few things really matter. And Mary has chosen what is better. Jesus says there is a better way, and it will not be taken from her. Imagine this moment. In the middle of this, Jesus is doing something powerful. He's doing a couple of things. One, he's shattering a myth, and that myth is that busy equals better. We live in a culture that it's almost a sin not to do something. That if you're sitting around or you somehow have a pace to your life that people look and they say, it looks like you're missing out. We have that FOMO thing going on, right? Fear of missing out. We scroll through our favorite social media feed. We see everything that everybody's got going on and we're like, what in the world? What is my life? They seem like everything is going really, really well for them. But Jesus shatters this myth for Martha, and he's like, busy isn't always better. In fact, this is so good. I want you to grab hold of this. Jesus is never in a hurry. As you read through the Gospels, you see a very relaxed person. And I find that incredibly appealing. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have a lot to do. He's on a mission to save the world. He's got a lot on his plate. But Jesus is never in a hurry. In fact, I read this week, over half of the teachings of the Gospels, over half of the teachings of Jesus were as a result of interruptions. People interrupted him and he stopped in the middle of his busy schedule and had time for someone. Hurry is an enemy of love. Hurry is an enemy of relationships. Hurry is an enemy of interacting with God. And he stopped. Half of what we have of what Jesus taught us was because somebody said, hey. Now listen, this next quote here, it hit me like in the face, like right between the eyes, from C.S. Lewis. How we respond to interruptions is who we really are. That if I'm in such a hurry and I just can't tell you, I mean, kids are interruption machines, okay? So if you're a parent in the room, you understand. If you're about to be one, get ready. That's their whole job in life, is to interrupt. And I think about all of the moments I was so busy that I failed to interact with my children, that I failed to carry, Also, he's not only shattering a myth, he's confronting a fear. Write that down. Confronting a fear, confronts a fear. And that fear, I believe, for Martha is that I am what I accomplish. I am what I do. Activity is where I get my identity. And so Jesus is saying, look, you have this moment right now with me. You're never gonna have this moment again. This is a moment I'm in your home and we're talking, we're teaching. And Mary is sitting at my feet. And so what does he do? He points to a better way. And isn't that what we all want? Is a better way. When Jesus comes on the scene, he gives us this moment of resistance and change, a countercultural idea. He says, there's a better way. And it's the power of prioritized life. The power of a prioritized life. The first thing he says, I want you to come and be with me. Because here in this moment, Mary's sitting at his feet, listening to him. He's trying to encourage us to remember that no matter what the hecticness of your day is like, we have the ability to stop and prioritize and say, hey, I'm gonna get up 15 minutes early. I'm gonna push back my schedule a little bit. And I am going to start my day in the presence of God. I'm gonna sit at his feet and remember that I'm not God and I'm not in control, and that I don't have all the answers. And I'm gonna sit at his feet. Nothing gives clarity to us like sitting at the feet of Jesus and learning from him and stopping and going, I've got the rest of this day. I'm looking at my calendar. I'm looking at my schedule. I don't know how to manage all this. In fact, I think it's incredibly important for us to continue to meet together as a church and to make it a habit to regularly gather with other brothers and sisters. Did you know that the reason why we worship on Sunday, for two reasons as a Christian church, is because this is the day that Jesus rose from the dead on a Sunday, but also that it was the first day of the week in the calendar during the time of Jesus. And so they began their week with worshiping God. Like Monday wasn't their first day of the work week, it was Sunday. And so they began their week going, I'm gonna come and sit at the feet of Jesus. Now, I'm incredibly grateful for technology, that we're able to have hundreds of people watch online every week. And I know that there are people who watch from all over, and sometimes it's just the necessity of our busy lives. But if you just got in the habit of just watching online, and maybe you're back here in the room today, and if you just got in the habit out of convenience, I just want to encourage you to make it a priority to come and sit at the feet of Jesus once a week. Dads, look at me. I really want to encourage you. You lead the way with this. Children who grow up in homes with fathers who make church a priority are 80% more likely to have faith be important in their lives than if just mom does. It's just true. So fathers, we lead the way with that and saying it's a priority for our lives. 2 is this: I clarify my calling, meaning as Jesus said to Martha, hey, only certain things matter. You have to go back to what really matters to me. What is my calling? And you do that by asking a couple of questions. One is, What's important right now? What's important now? Because a lot of things will clamor for your attention, but what's important right now? But the second probably is a more important question. What will be important then? Because later is longer. So you look at your life and you go, okay, this really just screams for my attention. This is so important. But all of us could look back a year ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and that was such a big deal. But we're like, why was that such a big deal? Why was I so worried about being involved in that? Why was I so worried about that person? And now they're not even in my life anymore. What will matter then? Come on. There are young parents in this room, and every day will clamor for your attention. The days are long, but the years are short. In about 3 minutes, you're gonna be in a different season. What will matter then? That's how we discern what's our calling in this moment. And then you gotta do this. Once you decide what you're called, like what's important, look at me. You gotta block out the noise and you gotta resist the pressure. Individually, at work, as a family, you gotta block out the noise because our society, culture, social media, friend groups, they will all pull on us for our attention and our activity. But you have to build this, values inside to say, this is what matters. And we're gonna block out the noise. We're gonna become the resistance of the people of God. Like we are the remnant, and we will do what is better. And we will do what matters, because there are people in this room. I was at lunch with some of my older friends, my doctor and his wife last Sunday, and we were just talking and just listening to them, been married 67 years, and we're just talking about the things that really matter. Like what matters right this moment might not be what matters in a few years. So let's block out the noise and resist the pressure. And the last thing is this, write it down, is to choose to cheat. Now, that sounds kind of funny coming from the preacher. But I read this in a book a long, long time ago. The author said something like this: you, me, we're gonna cheat somebody. Why? Because we all have limits. And you just don't have enough time. In fact, if you could like rub the genie bottle or wave a magic wand and you'd have 5 more hours tomorrow and every day this week, I would just fill it up with more. But we don't, we have limits. Loving limits placed on us by God to simply say to us, like, this is all you have. So we get to the place where we say, I'm gonna cheat somebody, let me cheat the right thing. Let me cheat the system so that I give my attention to the right thing. So what we're gonna have to do is, for many of us this week, this broken down suitcase represents our life. And we're gonna have to open it up. And we're gonna have to pull everything out and go, this is the sum of my life. I thought about doing that, but this is kind of we just got off a plane last night, so it's still filled with a bunch of stuff. And I didn't want my underwear to fall out on the stage. And so, but you're gonna have to open up the suitcase of your life and dig it all out and then put back in only the things that really, really matter. And then listen, let's go back to the beginning. And then for the rest, we're gonna have to become a people who say, no, thank you. Because there's a better way. No. No is a complete sentence. Isn't that good? You don't even have to explain it. It's nice to say thank you. It's probably what Christians should do. But no is okay too. You wanna practice together? Ready? 1, 2, 3. No. Didn't that feel good? You wanna say it one more time? Ready? No. Why? Because I'm saying yes to something, come on, better. So this week, take out your suitcase pull it all out and go, what really matters? I want to find a pace so I can walk in his grace. I didn't mean that to rhyme. But a pace that is sustainable. Let's pray together. God, we are consumed by busyness and so often addicted to it. But would you help us this week to unpack the suitcase of our lives and begin to put back in the things that really matter? Following you, good, healthy, emotional, spiritual habits, prioritizing our family and our friendships and the things that really, really will make a difference. But maybe you're here today and you say, you know what, that's a nice talk on busyness and schedules, but what I need more than anything is a relationship with God. I came here this morning and I've been wrestling with some things. Maybe you're thinking that, but I need to start following Jesus. And if you're ready to do that, I want to give you an opportunity to begin. Maybe you would say a simple prayer, something like this. That's you. Just say quietly to God, Jesus, I believe in you. I believe that you lived for me and you died on a cross for my sins and you rose from the grave. And the best way I know how, I turn my life over to you. I surrender. I ask you to forgive me. I ask you to come into my life and help me to start following you. In Jesus' name, amen.